Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to the Pitlane Podcast, episode number 79 today, to review the Chinese Grand Prix, round number 3 of the 2018 Formula 1 season. Back with usual hosts, myself, Aarav, Callum, and Tom. And what a round 3 that was. We were really blown away by the Bahrain Grand Prix. We raved about that one for over an hour in that podcast, and we're looking forward to, hopefully, just as good as the Chinese Grand Prix. And I think we got an even better one, because the safety car and the Toro Rossos colliding really blew up that race, and what a race that was. And it means the Mercedes have yet to win in the 2018 season so far. But before we get into the rest of it and get some initial thoughts from Cal and Tom, just to remind you guys, we are on Patreon right now, so if you do want to directly support the podcast, we really would appreciate you checking out the Patreon page. And we're also on audio on iTunes and SoundCloud, links all below. But Cal and Tom, initial thoughts on what was a pretty sensational Chinese Grand Prix, guys.
2018 is looking like the year of the battle of the fronts. It obviously, we came out of Australia going, another year, another sitting behind each other. Came out of Bahrain, holy hell. And we've come out of China, holy hell again. And what was it? Holy Testicle Tuesday. I think Daniel Ricciardo came out with. That was absolutely insane. Literally a race of two halves. I thought lap 10, lap 15-ish, I thought, oh no. Oh, here we go again. This is another China ball fest. But thanks to the Toro Rossos, we got a race. And once again, strategy proving a good factor of the 2018 season. And probably once again, doing very good with their tyre choices. Because we had basically strategy through qualifying and through the race, which really did spice up the racing. So a really, really good race from China. And we basically need to put Bahrain or China as round one. I think we need to make a position, so we actually move round for round one.
I think I'll disagree. I think I'll hinge the race thanks to the Red Bulls, not the Toro Rossos. They held the keys to the kingdom. They held the power. They were on originally the two-stop with the Ultrasoft starting on that tyre. They got past around the window, which was around lap 12 to 14, and they stayed out. So at that point, basically, they were going to the one-stop, and you knew they were going to stop first. And whenever they stopped, everyone was going to have to respond. So it all fell into their hands. And what did they do? They hit both bloody cars at the exact same time. Absolutely brilliant strategy. Caught everybody off guard. And a really good race. And I think, once again, my corner, I'm going to defend this race. The whole one-stop, two-stop, three-stop situation. Once again, another one-stop with a potential two. But just the tyre wear playing a factor.
Right.
Tyre wear always in everybody's mind. And it just made for an absolutely incredible race. So, I think we can just dissect it in sections, kicking things off with the start of the race. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Driver of the day.
Mixed views here. I've got to say, controversial, because I watched the race with my dad. Now, at the time, the start was like, okay, cool, really good start. But in hindsight, now the race is finished. Should Vettel have squeezed Raikkonen that much into turn one?
I did think at the time he did squeeze him quite a bit in terms of God said, you could have given him a bit more room, because he pretty much did force Kimi then to lift off massively and pretty much hand Bottas the swoop around the outside. So it was very, very harsh. But I guess also, you can say teammates, but at the very start of the race, are you obliged to really think that much about your teammate at the very start? Like, you're talking like 5 lets are out, surely you are just thinking about number one yourself. So I guess in that way,
it's racing, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, Cal, what do you make of it?
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yeah, when I saw it, I thought, I know we've talked between the two Mercedes countless amount of times of pushing each other off track, and no real eye was really back towards it. I think it's because it's Ferrari. I feel like there's a slight different look at it.
Yeah, maybe.
But this was the prime race where Kimi just got fucked. Like, he just got ruined in every element of the race, and
he's already dead.
Literally just putting more bullets into him, because that start, you look at it, fair play to Bottas, because he was ever the optimist and swooped around the outside, so he got up there. Also shout out to Verstappen, because he had a good start as well. But I just thought it was a bit aggressive on Vettel, but he's just defended his position. He's put Button on the grass, I want to say. I know he's been quite aggressive off the start. I can't remember the last time he started on pole position. I think it was 2011 in China, and he
Singapore.
was trying to defend. No, but I mean at China,
in Shanghai.
Because obviously it's been 7 years of Mercedes poles. That's quite a mad stat. Since 2011 was the last time a non-Mercedes started on pole in Shanghai. But he has done a bit of weaving and diving about, but I don't know, a little bit unsporting from Vettel, but he had to do what he did to get into turn 1 first, and he
Yeah.
managed to do
hurt.
it. So.
It hurt me, man. I was happy because without that, the race wouldn't have been as good as it was. I feel like if Ferrari would have just taken the 1-2 into turn 1, I think we know how the race would have gone. I mean, I wouldn't have complained anyway, but I don't think it would have been spectacular because I think, Vettel out front, setting the pace, Raikkonen behind, and then whoever's after that, I think it would have been a pretty straightforward race. You could see Vettel was controlling the pace. Bottas
it was 2011
sort of
Vettel out there.
Yeah. No,
race.
I was going to say something different. This is a new Vettel, and we'll go into this team by team, but this is a new Vettel I've never seen before, and I'll give him a lot of credit after. But in terms of more things at the start, obviously, it was all mental, all through the pack. So many sort of overtakes side by sides, and eventually it culminated with a pretty interesting sort of order because Raikkonen, like you said, Cal, got royally flushed down the field, and you had sort of Ricciardo, who was just sitting there after the qualifying heroics from his team, trying to get the car back together for Q1. And Hamilton just sort of a bit invisible this weekend, to be honest. You don't really say that too often about him, but he really didn't show up at all this weekend. But
it was
Two Renaults had a great start as well after the Force Indies.
Two Renaults.
It was Perez who went really wide in the S section. Ocon was on the radio complaining about him going wide and kind of holding him up a little bit because he kind of lost. I think he ended up losing 2 positions instead of taking the overtake
Alonso
on Perez.
gave him a good old pinch,
Yeah, so
also
pinch Perez.
could just throw Lance Stroll into the mix. He had a start as well.
Yeah. Wealth, yeah, fair play.
That basically was the best part of his race, and then I think it was probably
unfortunately.
That point.
He does get good starts quite often.
Yeah, I think he's quite ballsy. I think he's a bit of a Verstappen when it comes to just being a bit daring. But
I think this is where we can begin to break it down. So we'll just go to that key moment. So obviously, your first key moment was realising the Red Bulls weren't going for the 2; they're going for the 1 stop, and that's when the race sort of opened up a bit because when they went long, it sort of was a situation of okay. So when their pit stops arriving, because the soft runners are going to be compromised on their strategy, having to come in earlier to respond to cover the Red Bulls, and then the Toro Rossos happened. Now, at the time, it's just a slam dunk Gasly penalty in my opinion. But considering the circumstances, apparently team orders were given because Hartley was in mediums, Gasly was on softs. Hartley sort of opened up the entry and then shut the door, and apparently he'd been told to let Pierre through at that particular spot.
Yeah, at that exact corner.
Right.
Yeah.
So, is the penalty harsh on Gasly?
We still hit him.
I think.
I mean, if you're being told that you're going to get let through, you still don't hit the driver.
Yeah, but if you're not expecting to be cut across.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Like you say, on face value, at the time when we did not know the info about them doing the team orders, it just seemed like, okay, Gasly, you've just been a bit of a numpty and hit him. But I don't know. Do you think the FI are obliged to take stuff like team orders into account?
Thing I was going to bring
I just think they rushed into the decision too quick.
No. Think about it a minute though. If you're the FIA, you don't need to. Any circumstance, there has been a racing incident on the track. You have to analyse why that just happened, and you've just got to put the blame at someone. And if you remove the radio from it, you just go, it's Gasly. And even
100%.
I just even if you're being let by, you've still got to have your wits about you. And
you still got to get it done neatly.
He just hit him. It was just
there
was no other thing towards it. It was just stupid anyway. And even when you're overtaking your teammate when he's letting you through, you've still got to be extra cautious.
Yeah, exactly.
At a corner like that as well, it's the tightest corner on the track. I'm not sure. I mean, he'll let you through at turn 14 after the kilometre back straight when you could have let him through there, which is just quite odd. Yeah. Quite odd altogether. So I can't really see the logic behind the fact that, he'll let me by in turn 14 then, when you've just had an entire kilometre back straight to do it.
Yeah, that was a bit odd. I think in terms of the FIA today, they're at least consistent because then if you take that on to the all the way right towards the end of the race with Verstappen, at least they were consistent in terms of the same place, same sort of contact, same penalty. So at least tops to them in terms of keeping consistent because in the past, they've made some shocking decisions in terms of they've taken too much consideration to the situation and they're not given the same penalty for the exact same thing. So I think all round they did a good job of what was a difficult situation with the whole team order thing there. So even before the pit stop though, we saw Ferrari just not we talked about Ferrari doing some good strategy work at Bahrain. Obviously, we praised them so much for Vettel's amazing work and, Ferrari's just bold strategy there. But at China, at least, at the start of this race, before we knew it was going to be such a big, showmanship ending to the race with the Red Bull cars, Ferrari, I think, made a mistake in terms of not bringing Vettel in fast enough after Bottas had come in. Bottas got the undercut. And then it's that thing where us three have talked about it plenty of times, the Kimi issue at Ferrari, where they kept Kimi out for pretty much half the race then on soft tyres, and they didn't need to, and they were trying to back Bottas they were trying to back Kimi into Bottas, and then it didn't really work because Kimi had a half-hearted defence, and Bottas got past. Vettel got past then very easily because Kimi let him through, and then Kimi had to pit and came out in 6th place. So I don't know. Obviously, I think, Tom, you'd maybe have some strong things because you talked a lot about the Raikkonen kind of dynamic before at Ferrari and how, I agree with it. Actually, at the start of the season, even this weekend at China, Kimi's looked very strong. He looked there, right, with Vettel. I think you tweeted about it. He made Vettel work for the pole position. So I think
what we'll do is, to sort of segue, we'll go team by team and we'll just start off with Ferrari and we'll sort of take it from here.
Right, yeah.
And then we'll just talk about that. We'll sort of chime in with some pieces of the race happening.
Arguably, they were the fastest car.
The teams. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I think it works. So, first of all, I want to say Ferrari qualifying Saturday, fair play. Absolutely brilliant. That came out of nowhere. I did not see that coming one bit. So, fair play to them. But here's the situation. Obviously, I'm a neutral, so the race today, I loved the race. It was great fun. So before anyone sort of says anything, Ferrari fan, bias, whatever, yeah. Strategy-wise, I think Vettel was checkmate because he came in the next lap after Bottas. He reacted when he had to. In terms of Bottas came in the very next lap, Vettel was in. But I think everybody, but the Ferraris the most, fell victim to something quite interesting today. I think no one expected the level of tyre degradation that we saw in the race. Because if you look at the softs, how they sort of vanished and how fast everyone was going on them fresh mediums, and then later on in the race, how slow those medium runners were going with still 20 laps to go at some point when that safety car came out. I don't think the one stop would have been as plain sailing as people might have thought. I think the two stop might have been a pretty good option, to be honest, if you look at the overall pace. And I think in this race, Raikkonen got royally flushed by the strategy. Now, here's the thing. For once, it kind of worked when they left him out. I'll disagree with you, I think it kind of worked because Vettel was literally kissing Bottas' arsehole when he came out of turn 5 once they'd both overtaken Raikkonen in that corner. He was literally about to go for a dive into the fast left-hander of 6. But here's the problem. I'm not sure how to read the Raikkonen situation because he looks so much better this year, but he doesn't in some ways. And this is why I'm going to change my opinion a bit and sort of go back on my word. If you look at Bahrain, he was absolutely nowhere for the first half of that race. Like, he got swallowed up in the pack and he had nothing to respond. He was getting caught by the Red Bulls behind. He wasn't actually catching the cars in front. And the same thing today. He got offset by that start and he never really recovered. His pace was poor. Even when on the mediums, his pace was not great. Even when his mediums were nearly 10 laps fresher, he wasn't lapping any faster than anybody else. So his pace in race day wasn't spectacular. On Saturdays, he seems to have improved and got it down. But even on Saturday, you could say he bottled it because he got the Q3, the final sector wrong. So with Raikkonen, while I do admit and agree he's improved a lot this year and he's a bit more switched on, he's still got them signs where he's just got no pace at all. Like in the race day, he just nothing. If he'd been in the lead, would it have been different? Maybe, but he couldn't match the pace. He was struggling. Fair play to him for getting third place in the end. I don't know how it happened, but he managed to pull through. Almost got Bottas for second. But overall for Ferrari, I've got nothing to be angry about. I don't know. It's a bit like how I'm sort of like Vettel after the post-race interview. It happened. There was nothing they could have really done. I think Vettel had 30 laps to get past Bottas in a normal race, whereas the safety car came out and it made it a bit more difficult. And Raikkonen was 6th and nowhere. That's a disappointing one. I think with Raikkonen, they really threw it away. But I think they threw it away in the turn 1 on the first lap, personally. I think.
With Kimi, yeah. I mean, I think with Vettel, I think really, kind of resonate with him in terms of, I think Vettel really did nothing wrong. Like, it was kind of like a Hamilton-esque from Australia. He did not put a foot wrong. I mean, the only foot wrong was maybe him and the team jointly. That I still feel they should have come in straight away as soon as Bottas came in, like literally the next lap. But I think they left it 2 laps, and that's why he got Bottas got the undercut on him, and then he kind of found it tricky to overtake him. But apart from that, they did not put a foot wrong. They had fastest car, Vettel looked comfy, and then obviously just gets hit by a Dutchman at the end of that and goes for a spin and goes down the order. Like he said, he was prepared to let Verstappen through because he did the same thing with Ricciardo. There was no point fighting that because he could clearly see the Red Bull was going to go on to win the race probably. So yeah, he didn't do anything wrong. So yeah, I don't think Vettel can be too disheartened by that race. Kimi, yeah, good recovery to third, but I just don't know. I like
the Ferrari strategy. Like, it's weird to me.
I don't think it worked personally. Yes, he backed him up, but I think you could have said it worked kind of half well if Kimi had actually followed through on that dive bomb he looked like he was going to do. Like, just as he let Bottas through, it did look like he was going to go back down the inside. If he had done
he was
that,
like letting Vettel through at the same time though.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. That's the thing though. If he had actually done the dive bomb, pushed Bottas so wide, maybe allowing Vettel to undercut both of them on the switchback line, maybe it could have worked. But the fact
is that turn one sort of Raikkonen pissed off and not wanting to collaborate to the best of the possibilities. So like, after turn one, you screwed me over, so I'm not going to give you the favour. Here's what I find interesting. I don't know what I would have done. Ferrari should have just come in the second Force India, because I don't know if you noticed, they were smashing every sector time, just them two alone, Ocon and Perez in purples. The second they went onto the mediums, Ferrari didn't have to wait to respond to the guys around them. And here's what makes no sense to me. I was watching Spanish coverage, and they had a direct communication. You know when they have the pit wall with Warner or whatever? They had a direct communication with Marc Genet, who's in their Ferrari garage. And obviously, if you know where he is, he works for Ferrari. He's sort of pretty tied up close. And he was giving feedback on Ferrari strategies and what they were saying for the team radio. The gap Bottas and Vettel had, or Vettel had to Bottas more like, was around 2.5 to 3 seconds. And the idea behind that was to cover Bottas coming in and also the undercut lap distance. So that would give him obviously freedom. And somehow they threw it away, like you said. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure he came in the lap after, but if he did come in 2 laps, then that's their fault. But yeah, overall, I can't really. They messed it up, but it's not really. It
wasn't a disaster
really
race.
It wasn't disaster. Raikkonen still got third, and if Vettel hadn't been spun out by Verstappen, then it could have been 3rd and 5th for Ferrari. Instead, it's 3rd and 8th.
It was basically just them doing just kind of like a blast from the past strategy where they'd just leave a Raikkonen out, they'd get caught napping. And this is the thing I think we've kind of almost praised Ferrari in a way, is this year they've been almost actively pushing their strategy. But then again, right, we can't take anything away from Mercedes because they were aggressive with their strategies today, and it worked. It worked perfectly.
Half worked.
Well,
because they weren't aggressive enough, I don't feel, with Hamilton then at the safety car period, but that was also unfortunately due to they did not have enough tyres as well. Apparently, Hamilton did not have any fresh tyres.
I saw a lot of fellow Hamilton fans moaning at Mercedes, but
Merc, unfortunately, they dug themselves into a hole early on that they did not foresee, that they didn't have enough tyres to work anything with Hamilton.
Had to do 2 runs in Q2.
So that was unfortunate.
Because he wanted to get obviously the ideal tyre was to go on a set of softs.
Or was it
your reaction tyre? Well, yeah, it was, because
for Merc,
the medium would have been
not for Ferrari.
If you're wanting to beat, the thing is though, with that sort of strategy call, your aim is for the race win, and that Red Bull are going on softs, you put it on mediums. I'm not entirely sure what the offset was, but I don't think that was the ideal tyre to finish the Grand Prix on. And the Ultra Softs were not the ideal tyre because they would have just burnt up and died. So I felt like Mercedes were just driving into a wedge, but with the aggressive strategy,
and Ferrari though,
it did catch Ferrari out.
Ferrari and Mercedes were in sync pretty much. It was a straight race between those two teams. It would have been maybe Bottas and Vettel for the win, and Raikkonen and Hamilton for 3rd place. The wild card was Red Bull, and this is why I don't think Ferrari or Mercedes can kick themselves too hard about this. Red Bull started on Ultras. They were scheduled for a 2-stop. They did a 1-stop. Red Bull happened to be on the perfect part of the track at the perfect time, where Bottas and Vettel had already passed the pit lane, whereas they could do a free 2-stop, and also the distance between the two cars was perfect for them to stack them. It's one of them ones where you can't be too angry because it just worked out perfectly for the Red Bulls.
Yeah, it's just racing. Sometimes these things happen.
Hamilton, for example, you can't be too harsh. I don't think he had the pace all weekend anyway. So,
well, that's why, like,
we're
we're talking about
do
Ferrari.
strategy-wise. I will say, just I want to close with Ferrari because we're sort of mentioning other things anyway. So, I'll close with Ferrari, and I want to go back to what I mentioned before about Vettel. This was a very different Vettel this weekend. Two things I want to point out. The first one, how he reacted to the Verstappen incident, and also reacting to the press conference last week, how he defended Hamilton with the interview. This is a very different Vettel. I've never seen this guy before because I think he's learned a lesson from last season of being a bit of a hothead, and he's really taken a chill pill this year and really sort of cooled it all down. The way he handled the Verstappen situation over the radio, not an expletive, literally, you saw what happened here. That's all he said. And not just that, the way he drove today, Vettel traditionally walks into the distance. Today, Vettel did a Hamilton classic, which was keep the gap around the 2.5, don't over push, keep it there, sort of controlled race.
Yeah, especially with these tires.
A different kind of race. However, today I think that backfired on him. Yeah. I think today the best
it's
thing
backfired
for
on Lewis plenty of times, hasn't it?
The best thing
not
today,
the ideal way of winning, but
it works if it's a simple one stop and there's no unscheduled madness going on. But if it's a race like today,
no one could have foreseen that though. So,
exactly, but that's the fine line of risk you take. We've had 3 races this season, and 2 of them have been dictated by an out of nowhere VSC or safety car. So you make your own luck. But I think if Vettel would, and I think he had the pace because he was controlling the gap. If he could have waltzed off and had 10 seconds on Bottas, which I think he perfectly could have had, then obviously he would have easily had it all under control once the safety car kicked off, all that sort of thing. Because pit stops, he would have stayed out more laps anyway to sort of react. He probably wouldn't have got undercut. A whole flurry of things. But overall, like I said, different Vettel. The old Vettel would have just walked away with it. And also would have probably screamed to the radio a million times, what are we doing here? All that sort of ping pong stuff with the Verstappen incident. And I got a really different vibe about him, and he was very accepting of the 8th place today because if you look at the championship, he's still got 9 points on Hamilton. So he's like, you know what, fair enough, I'll take an L. And I still got the car, still got an engine, gearbox. Could have been a lot worse. So
he had a little chunk taken out of his wing. But to be fair, I like what you said there about Mercedes and Ferrari. It's not like they had a bad weekend, really. It's just the fact that they got caught out by Red Bull, but it's kind of like a throwback to 2010 when it was 3 teams, Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull, in which you can't. This is the thing. Obviously, this is kind of like a one-off. Let's say this is now going to be a more common occurrence. Mercedes and Ferrari can't just keep looking at each other. They need to start looking over towards Red Bull. And I know they already have been looking at Red Bull, but the past 2 Grand Prix, obviously, they've taken themselves out of the situation. But today is basically shown that... Because I'm going to be honest, I think in lap 20 or whatever it was, when Ricciardo was just sat in 6th, I thought, God, he's just off the pace. He's miles out of it. But he was just sitting there and biding his time. And you saw in the camera shot, you could see, obviously, Vettel and Bottas off in the distance. And then you had the little pack of Verstappen, Raikkonen, Hamilton. And then you just had Ricciardo sitting there, but being there. And I think this is the main thing that Red Bull need to realise is once they're there, they've got 2 drivers who are mostly capable of pulling off the overtakes and getting there once given the opportunity. And this is what makes this season really exciting, is the fact that if Mercedes and Ferrari do keep looking at each other, Red Bull are just going to keep coming streaming past them, being a bit more switched on when it comes to pit stops. And fair play to Red Bull all weekend, because not only did they get an entire engine change, and it wasn't even fully made for them, they had to change parts over and swap bits within the power unit.
Yeah, it's a bit of a
in 2 hours.
Botch job.
So then, obviously, fair play to Ricciardo. No track time, pretty much, to go straight out there and get himself into Q3 to P6. Yes, got out qualified, but completely, you can't really give him too many excuses because he'd only had 4 or 5 laps, and the double pit stops. I know we've come out of 2 weekends of issues with pit stops, and the Red Bull go, we're not going to focus too much on that, because I think a few guys were wondering if we were going to talk about the whole should there be a minimum pit stop time.
I'm never going to bother.
And I think there's just a general feeling that we don't really want to talk about that, because Formula 1 is all about the spectacle, and one spectacle of Formula 1 is the pit stops, and the 2 second pit stops are amazing. And the fact that Red Bull came along in China and just went, yeah, you know what, we're just going to do 2 pit stops where we service both cars under 5 seconds, just get in and out.
It's very simple. If they want to tweak it, in my opinion, just bring the lollipop back. It would solve any issues that happen because the car would not pull off.
The specific Ferrari case,
they're looking for a problem that doesn't exist, in my opinion. I think it's a freak accident. It happens. That's a whole debate for another day. But
anyway, yeah.
That double stack, I think it sums it up. When they brought Verstappen 2.4, straight after Ricciardo 2.3, 2 quick pit stops, reacting just like that to the safety car. Red Bull, not just the drivers, as a team, were perfect because they didn't have the pace overall. They were there, but they weren't the fastest. They were about 8 tenths adrift, obviously based off of qualifying. But, they were the more switched on. And I do you right, Cal, what you said about the strategy. There's another team in there now, so it's not just Ferrari going against Mercedes in terms of opposing strategies. There's a wild card in the mix. And today, once again, it was a scheduled 1 to 2 stop race. Red Bull were going to go for the one. Even then, with that one stop, they still forced a chain reaction that really sort of threw the race into high gear by having Bottas actually undercut Vettel and Raikkonen completely drop like a stone through the field just by them triggering a stop. So, really exciting, and obviously it's good for the season going forward. So, in closing, I think Ferrari take the L, but I think they won't mind too much because they still got 2 cars in the points and a podium. So, Mercedes, I think, can't be too harsh. I think Bottas, I won't give him credit. I thought he drove a brilliant weekend, really good weekend. Like just at Bahrain, out qualified Hamilton, looked the better of the 2 guys, just on pace. And if you look at it weekend wise, it's 2-1 to Bottas at the minute. So expect Hamilton back strong in Baku. And Red Bull wise, Gigi Ricciardo, I love that guy, can't hate him. And I'll say this: if you were to go to Ferrari, I'm not going to ever support a driver again, but he'd be bloody close. So
the moves he pulled off at the end there were just great to watch.
It was an example, of how to pull off a beautiful overtake, and Verstappen should probably watch that back.
You had the move on Lewis, which was a late one, and again, Rundle did that thing about counting the seconds and then braking late, and even Hamilton didn't seem to really know he was going to be there almost because he kind of had the door open. And then the one on Bottas for me was even more spectacular, just because of the way Bottas did squeeze him in the second phase, so close to the apex, and Ricciardo still went for it. Still had the balls to go for it, and fair play to Bottas then right at the end to just open the door a little bit. But another sweet move for the lead.
That move not only summed up Daniel Ricciardo's ability of talent, but also both drivers in terms of Bottas and just Formula 1 in general. Because you've got to think that move, both drivers were offline, dirty side of the track, Ricciardo on even dirtier side, complete inside. Yeah. Differing strategies, differing tyres, different cars, different driving styles. Neither of them hit each other going into that corner. Neither of them locked up, I don't think. I think Ricciardo may have a slight puff of smoke. And they just didn't trip over each other. And that was just F1. And that was for the lead. And this is why, sometimes you look at that and you just go, right, okay, that just sums up Formula 1 in that sense.
I think there was
that's what obviously people have missed.
There's an underlying message in that overtake because Ricciardo did state midweek, if I was Bottas in Bahrain, I would have gone for that overtake. If it means winning
this
the
is
race.
What links to what we were talking about last week.
It's just sort of like a little sort of punch to the gut, sort of not a heavy punch, but just a little jab, just to let you know. But also, fair play Bottas. I thought he defended it really well, and I didn't think Ricciardo would have actually still committed to going to the inside. So also Bottas
did exactly
a bit of aggression.
Done.
Yeah. I think we've talked about the top 5 because there's one animal now we need to sort of address. Mr. Max Verstappen.
Yeah, the elephant in the room.
This kid.
Well,
he's hot.
It was not a great moment for Max. Not gonna lie.
Not his finest moment either.
No. To be fair to him, I will fight his corner. To be fair to him, unlike other times, he did admit to it in the press in the interviews. He said, "Yeah, it was my fault for the first time." And I think a few people were tweeting about it that sometimes in the past, drivers like Vettel have had moments like that where they've had to admit they've done wrong earlier on in their careers, and they've kind of grown from it. And I think I really hope this can maybe be a growing point for Verstappen to kind of just recheck himself and be kind of like, okay, maybe not every single time I think an overtake's on, it needs to be on, and I need to get it desperately done.
You know what it reminds me of? Of the Hamilton 2011. It reminds me of that sort of season, where he just seems to be hitting people. Obviously, it's not one specific person, but he just seems to be making mistakes here, there, and everywhere. and he just needs to kind of clean it up. And I can see him either cleaning it up by the end of the season, because I feel like you know what the problem is obviously he went for that move on Hamilton, ran the outside turn 7.
Oh, that as well. That was mental as well.
Like, fair play because he was going for it, but we saw all throughout the race that no driver was going to be able to make it around the outside, and the fact that obviously he was half a car length back, so he obviously did have superior grip to try and go around the outside, but to risk your car around the outside like that, I know there's no wall nearby.
I'll give him credit for the save.
Yeah, the save was decent. But
the marbles, though, like, you're not going to make it, man.
It's just
common sense.
You've got a kilometre back straight. Just do it there. Like, you've got superior grip.
You could have just held it in there and then gone for it after the right into the next left.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, because we see that sometimes. Like I said, it's just a patience thing, or get him into the left-hand hairpin before the long right banking sort of thing. Like, there's other opportunities. He didn't have to do it right there, because that could have easily put him out of the race, and what's to say he could have rejoined the track and taken Ricciardo out, for example, like when he swiped
Well, Ricciardo
right
said
the track,
that. He said he was wary of that. He had to lift off, and he made sure he lifted off for it.
That's what I'm saying. So I've never been a huge... I mean, I respect he's such a quick, talented young driver, but I've never liked him because he's got this attitude about him, this sort of thick-headed nature of everything he does is the right way, and if it isn't, then, oh, well, they're just picking on the young guy for no reason. But I think the guy needs to check himself a bit, because Australia goes for the spin, Bahrain... No, nothing. I don't have to say anything there, because
it's his 4th season in Formula 1.
It's just ridiculous.
It's like Vettel said. He's not.
And today, in 2 incidents, not just the crash, but like you said, the moment of Hamilton as well. Like, chill out, man.
It's like Vettel said. He's not. He might still be young technically, but it's his 4th season. He's experienced in Formula 1 now, so it's time to start learning and bucking up a little bit and taking responsibility and actually taking stuff on board about being patient, not going for every single attacking move.
Interject here, just because I feel like that incident he had with Vettel was a slight jealousy sort of act when Ricciardo obviously started to make moves and started to pounce, because I feel like we've seen this before. Do you know in Hungary last year when he bumped into Ricciardo, because obviously Verstappen had such a good start, he managed to get around the outside, then he got boxed in and got kind of stuck out on the curb, and he lost a few more positions, and he sees Ricciardo go past, and he's like, no, I need to be the number 1 driver here, and I need to show the team why I am the best driver. And then he just goes one step over the line. And I think it was the same here, where he made that mistake going around the outside of Hamilton, or trying to. Ricciardo got past. He made the move on both a brilliant move on Hamilton, and then a good move obviously to get past Vettel as well. And it was just like, oh, well, I need to do that then. I need to show why I'm the number 1 driver. And it's just like, no. You could have had a podium there. You could have had an easy 1-2 for Red Bull.
You look, listen. Hungary, 2016 with Raikkonen, the double run-in. Hungary last year with the run-in with Ricciardo. His countless run-ins with Sebastian Vettel, and then all the ones he's had this season so far. And then there's probably a few others I'm forgetting, but I mean that's just straight away off the top of my head I can list. And he's only been in F1 for 4 years. The guy just needs to chill out a bit, check himself in, take a chill pill, and mature a bit with his driving style, because one day it could be serious in terms of, you don't want to turn the whole grid against you.
Well, I mean, like, it's what he said, though. If he didn't drive the way he did, then he probably wouldn't have pulled off that move around the outside at Mexico, Vettel. That he wouldn't have gone for that if he changes his driving style. So it's not a fact of changing his driving style, but it is literally just like
decision making.
You can still go for that move, just not the first time of asking.
Yeah.
Like, have a look first. Can you do it anywhere else? If not, if that is the only place you can do it, then just do it there. If you know what I mean. But anyway, Red Bull, fair play to them. They're back in the hunt. They're definitely not on pace just there, but this was the first time we saw them run a full race with both cars. They've got good race pace, as confirmed, as expected. And they just need to get their act together in a qualifying. So, watch out for Monaco. That'll be interesting. But,
sure,
we've definitely got a 3-way battle on our hands, and it's very, very exciting. But now, I want to have a little moment to tip my hat, which I've got wearing now, but the wrong way around. So I'm just going to tip it virtually, sort of imaginary, to Nico Hülkenberg. This guy, I mentioned it in the preview, this guy is on it. He's on his thing. He knows what he's doing. And I don't think he's getting enough credit for it. This guy is like... Look at the gap. And look at that final stint. He was at the back of that big boy train in that final. I know he had fresh tyres, but the guy just gets it. He knows what he's doing.
P6,
It's
Renault,
shocking,
very
isn't
good.
it? Yeah, it's like obviously I know he even teased Carlos
Could've
on
been P5.
Instagram about saying that the car wasn't good or in the debrief and everything. But he's literally doing exactly what he needs, and the fact that he did, obviously he was ahead of Alonso and then picked up that position against Vettel, which was a solid move to be fair. I know Vettel had just lit up his rear tyres like it was on a bloody barbecue, and then went off at turn 1 the following, literally just round. But you can't fault the guy, and he got 7th place again.
His
Like,
consistency, is what's doing it. Like we saw a stat over the weekend, 7th place in every qualifying since Mexico last season. The guy is just
Bulletproof consistency.
There's the top 6, and then there's Hulkenberg. You could write his name on the
Yeah,
position now.
literally,
So,
you've got Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, and then you've got Hulkenberg.
And then best of the rest.
fair play to him. Yeah. So Hulkenberg, fair play. Renault look really good still. Like I didn't think they'd be as
Yeah, I mean, the start of that race, both
but
of them were running 8th and 9th or something like that. So very good start
Yeah.
from both of them, and they're looking very solid. So positive signs there.
I mean, got points. Obviously, Bahrain just missed out, which is good news for him. But I think sooner or later he needs to react to this Hulkenberg form because there's a lot of hype behind Sainz, and I do think Sainz is a genuinely a really, really good driver. And at one time I thought he was better than Hulkenberg, but I think I'm once again remembering why I rated Hulkenberg so highly in the first place.
Yeah.
Like racing Palmer last year, he's got a better teammate. He's just upped his game another level. So it's great to see what we expected. To see the Renault guys pushing each other, and another double points finish for them. So they're doing beautifully well at the minute.
Yeah, you can't fault them. That was obviously the only thing you could have asked for is Sainz just a bit. I know he had a bit more of a bumpier weekend.
Yeah,
Off the top of my head, I can't reasons why, but
I think it's just him getting used to the car. But he said at the end of this race, he felt more comfy than Bahrain for sure, and so that's positive signs. Hopefully, he just continues to improve, because if they have another good double points like this next weekend, good momentum, because they're only 3 points now behind McLaren in the championship once again. So after a bit of a shaky start for them, things are looking much better, a lot more positive. And I think especially for Hulkenberg from the start of pre-season, when he said the car was not where they wanted it to be, I think they can be kind of pleasantly happy
definitely.
with the direction, the pace at which they're going back up the order in the standings with. So roll on Baku for them.
Someone else I want to tip my hat
Bahrain
to.
and 6th, so it's really good.
Yeah, they are doing well. But I want to tip my hat to Alonso as well, because every single qualifying, it's just looked woeful. It's literally like a Mercedes qualifying. It just looks woeful from McLaren. And then Alonso always just finds his way back into the points. Somehow. He just manages
I stand by what I said. He's in the form of his life at 36 years old.
And that move,
right now, he's the best driver on the grid. I don't care what anyone says. He's been the best driver on the grid for a year and a half now. He's untouchable.
Bold statement, but I just want to comment on his overtake on Vettel. Like, do you know how I was on board with him?
Yeah.
And I realised it was at the side of the track. I was like, where the fuck's Vettel gone then? Like, where's Vettel?
Yeah, Vettel was still there on the left.
Yeah, and he was just like, yeah, I'm still here. And obviously Vettel wasn't entirely pleased with that. But that was Alonso getting his elbows out against his old team, which understandably you can see why.
I really thought that was on the limit.
I think you can clearly see Fernando was.
Yeah.
I think that was a move with a bit of salt in it. I think you can't deny that. You can't deny that.
If there was a penalty given, I wouldn't have been against it. And I'm not being throw past here. I'm genuinely, Vettel was still alongside pretty much for God's sakes, and he just literally ran off the road in not exactly the smoothest part of tarmac curb grass combination.
Downhill.
Like there's a horrible bump there, and then Vettel obviously had grass in his tyres.
And also you factor in the fact that he would have easily overtaken him anyway later on the track. So.
I think and once again, this is also Vettel not reacting at all to it. He just sort of
Yeah, it happened. Been there.
I think Vettel said he was just happy
Vettel.
then to make it in the race. Really, to be honest.
If the Verstappen thing hadn't happened, maybe we might have seen a penalty there. Maybe, who knows? But once again, just surprised Vettel didn't react, and also I think I'm surprised Alonso didn't get nothing, not even like a slap on the wrist or anything.
I know
but
it was noted,
it didn't even go under investigation.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it might have gone under investigation personally, but
yeah, the
still.
FIA just said noted, but I feel like it was just
Fair
one
play.
of them ones where it's just like, it's just bumping about a little bit. I know it's going off track, but the way the corner works.
Yeah, I think they saw it and just it's just a bit of racing. Like,
I think I would have slightly rolled my eyes a bit if I saw a penalty pop up on that, because I'd just been like, come on, it's a bit.
Yeah, I think that's why they were just like,
in the same way, do you know when Alonso got past Magnussen? I want to say in Malaysia. When he just barged him out of the way.
Oh yeah, I think so.
If you got a penalty for that, I'd just been a bit like, come on. It's just a bit.
I think the FIA been good. I think
about.
there was kind of a mandate for like the last year. I think they've just been a bit more kind of, if it's just hard and fast racing, then just kind of give it a little bit of leeway.
Yeah, just
it's
let it
fine.
go.
Rather have the spectacle than the another penalties come up in the middle of the race. So
I think it depends. Like Ferrari, if they would have filed a complaint or like done something, when they infamously inverted commas go up to Charlie,
maybe
or anything like that. But literally nothing happened. I think Ferrari just accepted they'd lost it. But I'll stand by my statement. Alonso for me. I've never seen a guy just be so consistent every single race, always be there, and there was so much hype around Van Dorn. And to be fair, Van Dorn, I'm not going to give any criticism because he's doing a good job, but Alonso is just untouchable. Like I was telling my dad, I do wonder what would be the situation right now if Alonso was driving that Ferrari. You just have to wonder, like even last year's car. Like, I'm sorry, I don't care what anyone says to me. There's always a debate about Hamilton and Vettel, but Alonso's only won 2 championships, and that's what puts him down the pecking order. But the guy is just everything he touches, he can just make work, and that's where I think he just deserves credit. It's good enough in F1 as it is, let alone now Le Mans, doing the Daytona 24 Hours, doing IndyCar. This guy is
What can't he do?
hungrier than ever. His 17th season in Formula One, and he just gets it. He really does. Like I'm praying, and I'm actually really wanting to see a wet race or something kick off where he's got like Singapore last year a chance to make something happen, because I think it would be absolutely phenomenal to see it happen. Yeah. And I think if he ever got on the podium again or won a race,
yeah, definitely.
But McLaren are off. Ironically, though, we did come into the weekend with him saying, "Oh, why have you all beefed up McLaren when they're not that good?" And it's like, "Yeah, you're the one saying that these chassis is the best on the grid."
McLaren still have a lot of their qualifying pace. They need to solve that, and then very clearly, once again, like Bahrain, coming here. They very much have an issue with drag and aero efficiency. They need to really solve that because
that's right. We're going to a pretty good track for that next anyway, so we'll be all
right. It might be another painful qualifying, and again, Alonso might have to do a bit of showmanship in the race to bring that up. And I mean, there's talk of a T2, I think it's called, update they're going to bring to Spain. I hope that highly involves a lot of drag reduction for their sake, because it looks like that's really the main thing they have to solve. And that's, well, I don't know, just in layman's terms, it maybe seems a bit easier maybe to solve drag rather than adding downforce onto the car. So here's hoping here's hoping that they can do that. But Van Dorn had a quiet weekend, unfortunately, this time around. And speaking about quiet weekends, I guess we move it down the pecking order then to the final points paying position, Magnussen with Haas. Haas had a very quiet weekend, especially with Grosjean, because he had another brake by wire kind of funny issue in practice, and it's back to haunt him, I guess.
He's been missing the last 2 weekends, hasn't he? I think he's still in Australia.
Yeah, very, very odd.
It's quite interesting, really, because the midfield is very topsy-turvy. Obviously, there's another team that I want to talk about who had a woeful weekend, and they're the ones that were on their high horses last weekend. But, yeah, Haas kind of went under the radar, and it's good to see that Magnussen did get one singular point. But yeah, Grosjean with his brakes, I'm not entirely sure why it suddenly come back again, because I don't get how you can suddenly fix an issue
supply,
and go,
did they not?
Yeah, they fixed supply to fix it, and then they've got the same problem again. So clearly not an identical Ferrari, because they didn't have brake issues last year. But yeah, he had a pretty poorish qualifying, and I'm looking at his strategy as well. He went ultra soft. I'm not entirely sure why he did that either.
Yeah, that was a bit odd. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head
Aggressive
around that
AF.
one. Yeah, well, I know they did that in, I want to say Bahrain. They went quite aggressive, but
I think considering qualifying though, K-Mag did do pretty good to get ahead of the Force Indias, because Force Indias this time around looked a lot stronger around qualifying, which I guess moves us on to there, because Ocon 11th, Perez 12th. Obviously, we mentioned at the start, unfortunately, Ocon got held up and lost 2 places with Perez going wide. And then those two, they pit early, and then they just never really recovered. They had good pace, but it wasn't enough to get them back into the race where they were, which was like around P8, P9 at the very start. So unfortunate for them, really.
It's odd, because they look like one of the fastest teams in the midfield, and then
they look back.
Need to go backwards. Well, at the minute, it's quite hard to judge the front 3, but it's hard to even pinpoint the middle pack.
Yeah.
Because you see so many teams jumping up and down. Like, obviously, you can maybe guarantee a Renault up there, and maybe a singular McLaren, if not 2. And then after that, Haas, Force India, and Toro Rosso, who got beaten by Sauber and Williams this weekend. you can't really apply any logic to it. Like, I don't know whether you two can draw logic, but I'm struggling.
I don't know. I don't understand it, but I'm liking the big yo-yo swings we've seen so far in the first 3 rounds of performance.
Yeah, I agree.
Track to track.
I think Force India needs to take, like, for example, for them, now's a good time because I think they will come back. So if I were them, for example, I would take engine penalties now. Things like that. Try and get, now they're not in a good way, now's a good chance for them to sort of get some demons out of the way so they can have the rest of the season, which is what they're going to need, to really catch back up to the rest of the field. Like, I don't know, really throw as much stuff onto the car to see if they can get something to happen. I mean, now we've got a 2-week break to Baku. Obviously, this one was only a 1-week break, so I think we'll see some updates for Baku, especially because that's a bit more of a closer race than Sochi is. So we might see something.
Actually, good pointing out of upgrades and stuff. Our Force India had a new front wing last weekend in Bahrain, and it worked. Apparently, they were putting the front wing on in China, and they couldn't make it work at all. Like, it just wasn't helping them in the slightest. I'm not sure why they took both specs of front wing to China when they should have had the better front wing anyway. But apparently, the aero balance is all over the place for them, so they couldn't nail. Obviously, it is a completely different track, Bahrain and China, but yeah, apparently the new front wing just wasn't working for them, and the aero balance is all over the place.
It's a new car, and they're just still learning, aren't they? If you look at Red Bull, their cars in evolution last year. Mercedes also, Ferrari also, Renault also. McLaren,
well, actually, yeah.
Pretty much. Most cars have evolutions of their predecessor, except for
also bringing that
Sauber.
up. You know how we compared Williams going backwards last year? It was quite interesting to point out that Mercedes improved by half a tenth.
I saw that. Literally nothing.
Like, literally nothing. I couldn't believe that.
Even Vettel's pole lap was only 6 tenths faster than last year's pole, and last year's pole was on super softs, and this year was on ultras. So
yeah, they haven't really improved.
It's not just the cars. I think,
but the cars don't look as good around China this year. And I'm not sure why. Like, last year they looked tons better.
Yeah,
but it just feels like this year they're a bit.
The more durable tyre just paid better dividends for them.
Maybe, yeah.
Last year, I think the more worn tyre didn't really. I don't know. Even like the Ultra wasn't working in qualifying yesterday. Like, I think also I would have thought, and I thought Mercedes might have tried the soft in Q3 and just risked it because they genuinely looked like they had better pace on that tyre.
Yeah,
they don't like the soft tyres. They don't like the softer tyres for sure. That's going to be
topped Q3.
They need to.
When he had another run on softs.
I think with Merc it's a weird one because they don't like the cold conditions and they don't like the soft tyres. So this race was, especially qualifying, was like a bad mix for them because it wasn't going to work.
If they don't fix that, that's going to turn into a crisis for them. They need to, because there's plenty of races where softer compounds are going to be taken, and it's going to be advantage Ferrari, which just seems to be the much better race car to switch on the tyres. And that's exactly what Ferrari had advantage last year, but it seems even bigger this year. So
I think I'm going to say it again. I still think Mercedes have the fastest car. If you put all the top 3 teams on a blank track with no cars in front, then Mercedes will come out on top.
Really?
In my opinion, I still think so. If you go,
I think it depends on the tyres entirely.
If you go 21 tracks of the season, I still think a solid 12 to 13 will go to Mercedes, and the others will be split between Ferrari and Red Bull, possibly.
Would you reckon that Australia was like the perfect track conditions for Mercedes?
Like, Australia was an example of when Mercedes have it perfect, it's just not even close, especially in Hamilton's case. I think yesterday was a bit of a shock how big the qualifying gap was. I'll give credit to Ferrari. They're closer than I thought, and I think they're closer than everybody else thought. I appreciate they went into this season with a lower expectation, which is what they should do to not disappoint the fans. But I still think Mercedes have the best car. It's very close now. It's very, very close. Because, it's literally, I think it just comes down to the track and the tyres. I think if we go to Spain, for example, I think Mercedes might be untouchable around there, personally. But I think where you're noticing the difference this year is Ferrari and their longer wheelbase car. I think in qualifying you can notice it yesterday. That's the small details where I think their longer wheelbase car really helped them in bringing that gap to Mercedes around a track which would suit Mercedes more. I think that's where you're noticing the difference to last season. Also, not just the track and the tyres.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I don't know how we managed to get back to the front 3 again.
Going back to
Williams.
Yeah, improvements
Actually, that's
from
a
one year
decent
to
result
another.
for them. thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think they won't complain too much. I mean,
they beat
it's a step in the right
Sauber
direction.
and Haas in one of them, and Toro Rosso, who got 5th last time out. I know they had a mare anyway, but Stroll with his good start. Qualifying wasn't even that bad. Well, they out-qualified both Saubers, who were on the back row of the grid. So qualifying-wise wasn't that bad for Williams. In the race, you could say that it did kind of redeem them. Stroll out racing Sorokin only by 3 seconds though, looking at it. So it's not really much to split the two drivers at the moment. I can't remember who out-qualified who. I think
Sorokin out-qualified.
Sorokin
got 16th, just missed out in Q1, which is pretty good performance from him.
So
and Stroll got 18th and
average.
19th.
yeah, I remember Sorokin did actually. Like, I was impressed by him. I was like, okay, fair play. He got quite close actually to Q2.
I missed Q1, but I saw it in the highlights and I was quite impressed as well. So fair play to him.
The only thing I can remember from qualifying is I saw an article afterwards where it was just Williams. It was like a Williams article where it just went, "Why Williams need Pascal Wehrlein and Felipe Massa." That's all I can remember from Saturday.
Well, to be fair, Pascal Wehrlein might be a bad shout for them.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look at the gaps, they were still. If you look at Stroll, not Sorokin, there was 16 seconds off of a point. So, on the grand scheme of things, and also on the same strategy as the 10th place man Kevin Magnussen. So with that in mind,
not bad, is it? Really,
it's not terrible. There's potential, and to be honest, I'm praying for them. They have an upgrade package for the next race because next race is going to be their best chance early in the season to get some points on the board and get off the bottom. Even if it's like a 9th and a 10th place, but next race, they have to perform. That's one of their like 3-4 chances this season to pull something together, along with like Spa, Monza, and Mexico, for example. So,
I've just got like a random quick question, just thinking about it, because Azerbaijan, I know Russia was always round 4, wasn't it? And that's technically Europe, but obviously Azerbaijan is more Europe than Russia.
Yeah.
Does that mean it counts as the start of the European season, or do we still class Spain as the upgrade start?
No,
of the European season?
we are definitely starting the European season next round.
Spain's
I know
Spain's
that might sound like a stupid question.
Spain's the big landmark.
When we say
for
European
upgrades.
season, we mean upgrades. That's what the European season really means in my eyes. So,
Yeah, the landmark's
are we going to see
still
a
Spain.
lot of updates for Azerbaijan, or do you reckon? Because obviously,
I think it'd be specific.
logistically, that's still a distance to go to Azerbaijan over Spain.
It'll be specifics like China was. There were a few specifics like the rear wing for Ferrari. At China, they brought like a Spa kind of style rear wing where it has the kind of undulation to kind of cut some drag. I think there'll be the same kind of thing up and down the pit lane. But I think the major ones, I think that landmark's still Spain. I think really.
Yeah,
for
that's
all
what I was getting at.
Baku is a bit closer to Sochi, so they might be keen on bringing in a few more. Like I said, Williams, for example, as an example. Maybe Baku might just be one compared to Russia, where they might be like, you know what, maybe we can afford to bring this rear wing to this track instead of.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Anyway,
it's going to be interesting. Like once again, Baku, the first time we go to this style of track this season, a very different track once again. I want to
obviously
sort of
it
feed
was quite
this
madness
into.
last time.
I watched Paddock Pass on Friday, like before Thursday. And like Will Buxton interviewed Kevin Magnussen, he said about Haas looking promising so far. Every single track they've gone to, Australia, Spain, Bahrain, different style of tracks, they all look on the money. And like now, once again, we go into another track where
It's 4
different
tracks,
characteristics.
about it.
Yeah, like completely different tracks. So we'll see how it goes. I guess now we're going to really see what the power units are like. Rumors go around Ferrari have matched Mercedes for power. Realistically, Baku, Mercedes have to be favourites, but we'll see that in the preview next week. But the cars that generally go on a straight line and the cars that don't, I think we'll see more or less how that pans out. And the interesting one for me is Toro Rosso going into Baku, and we could sort of segue into them, even though we're jumping the queue.
I mean, just one team, Sauber, and they had a very quiet weekend. Leclerc, spin.
Ericsson, though, once again, just doing the job. He started last.
I mean, he got out qualified.
Four cars behind him.
Yeah, I mean,
literally
he got helped out. Let's be fair, he got helped out
Yeah,
massively though by Toro Rosso having issues. And Alonso Grosjean, but Leclerc span about halfway through that race. That wasn't great for him. Another kind of learning curve for him, another learning weekend for him. But again, didn't really see too much of those two.
I actually can't think of anything really to say for Sauber, but just that.
There's something on their car that doesn't work because even Leclerc said these spins keep happening and it makes no sense, and it's true. The Sauber just keeps spinning.
Yeah,
something's
not
not
right. I
right.
think I've seen more spins of Sauber than any other
Maybe
car.
they're just trying to show off the nicer looking back end of their car, huh?
Maybe because everyone did rave about the rear wing. I think everyone wants to see the rear wing. To be honest,
there's I'm not an aerodynamicist, but there's something inconsistent with the way their car works because they just keep spinning in basic, simple,
slow speed
bends.
corners.
Well, like Spain, turn 4, kept on spinning there. It's just a simple right-hand.
Let's
bend
hope they
with
have an
no
update
real...
for Spain, huh?
Yeah, or Baku, because they
or
got the
Baku,
money.
yeah. So I guess we
yeah,
move on
fingers
to
crossed.
Toro Rosso then being the last team, and pretty much flip side from Bahrain, they just lost pace, and I guess they looked at the
Back to
numbers
Australia.
and didn't realise what they did at Bahrain to be so fast, and they clearly didn't know what to do here
Yeah,
at
they
China.
clearly didn't understand.
So it's a really odd one. I'm fascinated by this. Like, I really hope they do at some point find why they were so fast at Bahrain and figure out why, because it's very, very odd for a team to be so quick at one track and then go to the very next one and be so low compared.
Well, come last. Like, a guy
yeah.
that finished in 5th place finished 18th.
And there's no even engine on it. It's like
Yeah.
there's just car understanding the track.
Yeah, is very odd.
The car just doesn't.
I saw a
gel.
lot of
It's weird.
there's been so far this season a lot of back and forth between McLaren and Toro Rosso fans, or just kind of people who are kind of now kind of piping up, including me, about Honda now with Toro Rosso. But I think it's so early that I don't think either side of this argument can be high and mighty at this point. I think with Toro Rosso, I don't think McLaren fans can laugh at them at all for this Chinese Grand Prix, because it is just one race and it is a case of it's a different track and they clearly haven't understood their car, because you go back to Bahrain, that car was very, very quick, and it's a case of trying to understand what on earth they did, because that's not a fluke. That doesn't just happen out of nowhere. They've had to actually do something on that car to set it up. Like, a fluke is you get lucky with a safety car. A fluke is you gain 2 positions. But Gasly qualified legitimately up in P6 and then gained 1 position with a penalty.
There was rumours that Gasly was a Bahrain master.
I mean, yeah, I heard that as well. I think it was in the paddock pass. What was it? Buxton
there
did.
was some
That
rumours
Gasly
about that.
is known to be very good around Bahrain, but I still think that because Hartley wasn't, if it wasn't for a mistake, I think that was, or just poor qualifying from Hartley, he would have been up there as well, because he got stuck in a lot of traffic at Bahrain. So
Yeah.
I think personally, there's a lot they need to understand, and once they do, I don't think they'll be miraculously back to P5, but I think they'll still be back to near points again. I don't think they'll be anywhere back near to where they were in China, which today was pretty much nowhere, I don't think. The only time we saw them was for that crash.
Yeah,
I
they
think
weren't
what
anywhere.
it comes down to is McLaren know their car. They understand their car. I wouldn't say brilliantly, but they
Yeah, I was
understand it
gonna
pretty
say,
well.
Not amazingly.
No, because is what I'm saying. Toro Rosso don't know their car yet whatsoever, because, like I said, Australia was terrible, Bahrain was class, and this was terrible again. McLaren, as dodgy as their Saturdays are in the race,
Consistent
on Sunday,
races.
they're always there. They're consistent, so they know what they're doing more or less. McLaren have that ability, like Bahrain, where they realise they completely messed it up on Saturday, and on Sunday they know exactly what they've done wrong, and they turn it around in time, and they get a result. So, like, if you're a McLaren fan, the thing you've got going for you is consistency, especially with one of your drivers, especially. With Toro Rosso, the beauty and the beast with it is the beast, in this case, you don't know what you're going to get when you turn up to a certain track. The beauty of it, it could be Bahrain, it could click for you, and that car will fly again.
Yeah.
So
It'll be a
there's
nice surprise.
pros and cons. And McLaren, when it's on its day, compared to the Toro Rosso on its day, is not as good. But the McLaren is just more consistent. So
Red Bull might give you wings.
Yeah.
yeah, if there's enough,
Asterisk, yeah.
Asterisk,
Asterisk,
wink,
wings.
wink.
yeah,
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that's it,
Let
pretty
us
much.
find out how quick
Yeah.
we are first. But
Yeah.
a very enjoyable race. A
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
nice race.
I
a nice
mean,
palate cleanser.
solid 8. Or do I say 9 out of 10? 8 out of 10.
No,
'cause it was a
I'll
shit
go
start.
8 because the
Yeah.
first 30 laps you could have fallen asleep.
Yeah, I said 8 out of 10,
Or
yeah.
not
Very
not 30.
solid
20.
Chinese Grand Prix. Really enjoyed it.
Love
I
that
mean, Australia was Australia. Then again, when have we ever had a classic at Australia except for 2010? Let's be honest.
one. Yeah, it's got a spring.
I think that's what we're all saying.
Bahrain bubbled away nicely, a typical Bahrain race. China, I've got to give it credit. There's never really been a bad race around China. Like, last year, even though it's boring at parts, we appreciated the hard work overtakes last season.
Yeah. And now we go to Baku.
And now we go to last season's race of the season. So
You watch
Hopefully.
Baku be absolutely terrible.
I know exactly.
Don't
It's gonna
say
be a
that.
pile of rubbish.
Watch
Literally,
it.
it's going to be like
Don't say
Toro
that.
Rosso when it comes to races.
Look, we're gonna preview Baku next
Oh, yeah,
next
we've got a preview
podcast.
anyway,
next
so.
podcast. I'm gonna bash Red Bull once again because I did that last time. I gave up on them and they won the race. So that's
gonna
just
bash Ferrari.
that's the pass and pass. I'm just gonna bash Red Bull to no hell for the Azerbaijan preview. But that'll come next week because obviously we have a break now, so kind of nice. We'll have a full preview podcast this time around compared to the one for this Chinese Grand Prix, and we'll obviously look through any kind of news that happens the next week. So hopefully you guys look forward to that one. But if you have enjoyed this podcast to review the Chinese Grand Prix, then be sure to hit that like button. Let us know what you thought in the comments below about anything we talked about and get involved in that discussion below. If you're new around here, do get subscribed to this channel for the podcast. Check out these 2 links in the description. Our Twitter handles always on our name. Follow us, get involved with the talking during the race, or as all of us like to tweet out during the race at some point. But yeah, I mean, before we go, once again, if you are, able to maybe support us directly, you do enjoy the podcast enough, I would implore you to maybe have a look at our Patreon page. We are also on audio now, iTunes and SoundCloud, links both below the Pitlane Podcast. You can just search for that.
Give us a rating.
Huh?
Give us a rating.
Give us a rating. I mean,
rate that thing.
I mean, thank you very much. We already had plenty of a lot of really nice ratings, so thank you very much for that. I think we're 5 stars still on iTunes, so yeah, good job, guys. Thank you very much for that. And finally, if you do want to support us directly, you can also use the GTO Omega code PitlaneF1. That will directly support us as well if you don't want to use the Patreon, vice versa. But yeah, that's been the review of the Chinese Grand Prix. 3 rounds, and I think safe to say, guys, 2018 is bubbling away nicely, and the podcast has been doing the same, and looking forward to the next one. So, yeah, if you guys did enjoy that, again, hit the like button, and I guess we'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you guys for the next one, number 80, and we'll see you guys then. Goodbye.